Alrighty. So we are going to do a speed run of Sushi Saga, which should hit a bunch of things that you'll see on Code Challenge and are just good things to know in general. So as usual, stop me if you need to ask questions about anything. Totally cool. I am going to go ahead and share my screen and we can take a look at what we're getting into here. Controls. Alrighty. So Sushi Saga, it's got a broken image. That's fine. We have a restaurant with a bunch of sushi and some money, and we want to be able to get stuff off of that. We'll see what it looks like once we start it up. I've got everything installed and started up here. So let's take a look at our data first. What does that look like? We have a list of sushis with the key sushis, and those are going to be an array of objects with name, image, price, and so on. So let's go ahead. I did the npm install. I'm going to run that server. Take a look at our package JSON. Run server is going to run our data server. Run do start is going to run the start stuff. Start us all up. So let's go ahead and server. Gonna fire off our.
Is the career workshop mandatory?
It is mandatory. Yes,
Right.
I have
opinions study
about that. I know yeah. I believe it'll be recorded. So if you missed the beginning, you'll be able to catch up. But yeah, we've had talks about that before, and they are mandatory no matter what. So
okay, thanks.
Yeah, again, thoughts, but let's see. Here's our list of sushi at our URL here. Just going to copy that for future reference. And let's npm start and see what we have app-wise. Hey, okay, we got a table. The sushi will go up here. We'll have some money display there. I'm going to pop open the console just so we have it for great APIs assigned a value but never used. Let's go ahead and use it. Awesome. So there's our index and our app. Oh, and it has the URL right there for us. Cool. So let's see what they want us to do. Reading the instructions, did that, no tests, cool. So we've got a bunch of stuff to start off. They've given us an app with sushi container table. Great. Sushi container has the belt in it and a more button, and we're going to need to put these sushi components right in here. And yeah, great. We'll hook those up as we go along. So good fiction. Let's start off from the beginning. Number one, sushi list is properly received and displayed. Cool. So let's go up to our top level here. I would like to make a state for our sushi. We know it's going to be an array. So let's go ahead and do that. State. Use state. I'm going to start off with an empty list. And I'm going to do a use effect because we want something to run at the top. And I'm just going to run, do it once, and the array. And we want to fetch. We want to fetch our API. JSON dance. And we will do our push. And then let's console log out the data we get back. Let's make sure we get it. So we're fetching, getting our response, console logging it. Let's see. Hey, 100 pieces of sushi, and they all came through good. Great. So we got our stuff, and instead of console logging it, we're going to set sushi with it. So I'm just giving it the setter as the dot then. That's the same as doing sushi arrow, set sushi, or JSON, set sushi JSON. It's just a little briefer and neater. So that use effect is going to run that fetch once. We have our empty dependency array, won't do it again. So now we should be able to inspect our app with the inspector, component inspector. And here's our app level, here's our state, and that state has a whole bunch of things in it. Great, so we've got our data, now we just need to display it. Close that up. So sushi container, I believe, is the thing that's going to be displaying it. So let's pass in that sushi. And then in our sushi container, we're going to structure that sushi out. There's our list. And here we're going to map through our data and give us some sushis here. Oh, and this lab is always a pain because sushi is both singular and plural. So I'm just going to use S here. I'm going to transform those sushis into a bunch of sushi items. I'm going to import that. Great. So I need a couple things. I need to add a key. And that's going to be the ID. And what does it need for a prop? Oh, we have to do it ourselves. So we'll call it sushi. And that's our S. So we're passing a singular sushi in there, mapping off of our plural sushi in there. Cool. And if we look at it, it'll probably give us a bunch of empty stuff. Fantastic. And I think the table is all the way over here. Cool. So let's take a look at what it needs to happen in here. So we're getting our sushi plate, sushi on click. We don't need to worry about that yet. Don't need to worry about that yet. We are going to get an image source, and that's in our data image URL. So let's do image. It's going to need a name, which is name. We'll put the name down here too. And the price. Cool. I think that's all we need for the first part. Boom, there's all our cute sushis with the names. Great. So that's our fetch, that's our display. All this stuff should be pretty familiar by now. Let's take a look at what our next part looks like. Only 4 sushi rendered at a time. Cool. So let's think about what we want to do here. In our app, we are passing in the whole array to be displayed. So it's displaying 100 things. We only want to display 4 things. So we can take a subset of that array a couple of different ways. I think I like using slice. If you look up array slice, that will tell us all the things we need to know about that. And basically we want to get the start and the end indices for that. So I'm just going to slice this and take it from 0 to 4, I guess. And so that should just give me the first 4 items passed in there. And hey, look at that, 4 sushis. So second one, easy. Deliverables too. So we rendered 4 sushi time. Doesn't say what for. We could do 90, 94. But let's just do the first floor. Cool. Because look at this, we're going to need to do this. Clicking the more sushi button shows the next set of 4. And we don't have to be concerned about what happens when we wrap around. Cool. So right now it doesn't do anything. In fact, I think it just doesn't yell anything in the, nope, okay. Let's look at our more sushi button. There's a more button. Hey, on click, fill me in. So we're going to have to pass a prop down to that. And that lives inside the sushi container. Is a more button, and sushi container lives inside of app. So right now we're starting at index 0 and displaying the next 4. So we want to be able to start at an arbitrary index and show the next 4. So I'm going to set a state for that, I think. Just index start sushi. Okay, fine. And I'm going to start that off as 0. And now we can just replace this with our start sushi and start sushi +4. So that'll start off at 0 and go to 4. If it goes up, it'll go up according. But right now, we'll make sure it works the same as it did before. Fantastic. Now let's write a function to make that bigger. So I'm actually going to make another constant here, I think. And that's going to be display size, I guess. I don't know. That's going to be 4. And so now I'm doing it just so we don't have any magic numbers down here, and because we're going to need to use it up here as well. So I need to make a function, call it next sushis. And we don't need to take anything, I don't think, because all we're going to do is set start sushi to start sushi +4, which we have in our constant there. So if the display size changes, so right now it's 4, we can change it to 5, and we get 5, and then our button would go 5 up. Right now it's just 4. Cool. So that's our function that makes it go up. Now we need to pass it into the sushi container. So I'm going to call that, I'll call it next sushis. Sushi. Cool. So now I just need to grab that inside sushi container. We're going to destructure that. And I'm going to need to pass that to more button. Call that handle click there. I'm going to call that. And now inside our more button, we're going to destructure handle click. And I'm just going to call handle click in here, I guess. We don't need to pass it anything. So when we click on this button, it's going to call the function that's passed to it, which happens to be next sushis, which is passed to here from the app. Next sushis, which is this. This is going to set our variable to our size bigger. When that updates, it's going to update this. We're displaying a slice of the array from our index to the index plus the size. So 0 to 4 for starts, and then it'll be 4 to 8 and so on. Right? Yeah. In theory, let's find out. So we hooked all that stuff up. There's our first 4. Hey, look at that. Okay, cool. That looks like it works. And if we go off the end, we get nothing. It says not to worry about it. I'm going to worry about it. I'm just going to mod this by 100. I think that'll do what we want. And I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll be modding start sushi. Oh, yeah, let's just do that here. So mod basically says take the remainder. So if this is over 100, it's going to take 100 away and set it to the remainder. So in theory, we should be able to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it'll keep going. Great, we took care of the thing it said not to worry about. Awesome. That's the first 3 things. Look at that. That was fast. What questions do we have up to this part? All of it?
And that part where you're not supposed to worry about it, you're
Mhm.
doing, so that's saying the remainder of,
Yeah. So if it's so when it's at 96, we're going to add 4 to it, which will make it 100, and 100 divided by 100 is 1, and the remainder is 0. So it's going to set it to 0. It's called modulus operator.
I'm just
Basically,
not going to
it's,
worry about that right
yeah,
now.
don't worry about it. It's a
Okay.
math thing.
It's actually,
You'll
it's
definitely see
actually one
that.
of the bonus things.
Yeah, you'll actually see that a lot in regular programming, but it's a thing you get through experience. So yeah, don't worry about it too much right now. Cool. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions anytime. I'm going to move on to the next one here. Clicking on a sushi on a plate will eat the sushi, causing it to be removed from the plate and for an empty plate to appear on the table. Cool. So let's look at how it's displayed. Has the sushi been eaten? So if it has been eaten, it's not going to display it. If it hasn't been eaten, it will display it. And I think that plate, yeah, the plate is part of the div. It's part of the, if we inspect it. That div class plate, I think the CSS says, yeah, that's just a background image on that div. So all we need to do is worry about this, setting this value here. Which I think is a familiar, I think this is the third time we've come across this in the last 24 hours. We just want to do a thing depending on whether the thing has something done to it or not. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a property to the sushi object. And that's going to be eaten. So I'm going to say sushi eaten. Now it's going to be undefined, which is false right now. So it should behave the same. And it does. Great. So now I need to figure out how to make that eaten, which seems like this is what it wants here. So I think this is a situation where I want to give it an ID. So I want to get a function in here called eat sushi, and that will take an ID, which means I need to pass it an ID. And so I'm going to eat sushi ID. Why is it hollering? Eat sushi ID. Do I have an extra? There we go. Cool. So whatever function I pass to this, it's going to call with an ID, and hopefully that will eat that sushi, whatever it means. And I think the hint is we're not removing it from the array because the plate's still going to show up. So I think just setting that state feels like the right thing to do. Cool. So this needs to be passed into that, and that's going to be from sushi container, and that's going to be to that sushi. So it's going to be eat sushi, and we're going to have to grab that from up top again. So we'll destructure that. And that means we need to pass it in from the app. And then it's going to be in the sushi container. And I'm just going to call a function the same thing. Eat sushi. Nope, not next sushis. Eat sushi. And so now here is, we need to make our function. And we know it's going to take an ID because that's how we're using it. So now we need to take a look at our state. We need to close those up. We need to look at our state. We need to update the state with a list that is the same, except the sushi that matches our ID is going to have an, did they call it eaten? Sushi eaten. Yeah. So it's going to have an eaten property put on it. That is true if it's eaten, and we don't need to worry about making it false ever. So let's do that. So I need to set sushi. And I'm going to set it to our sushi list. Since we are setting it to an array of the same size, just altered, that's a mip. And let's do S again. So we need to check if the ID matches the sushi ID. If it does, we're going to do our stuff. Otherwise, we're just going to return it. So our stuff is going to look like we need to return a new object, and that new object is going to spread out the current one, and we're just going to add eaten is true. And so this is the same pattern we saw on the shopping list, same pattern we saw with the cast bill. If it doesn't make sense, I'm happy to pull it apart a little bit more. But this is definitely an idiom you're going to see over and over again. And you don't have to do it exactly this way. Again, this is another one where folks will use two lists sometimes, sushi and eaten sushi, or you can do it a whole bunch of different ways as usual. This is just the way that I feel like doing it now. So let's see if that actually works. Boop. Oh, look at that. It got rid of all of them.
Correct equal operator.
Yep, look at that. And why didn't my linter yell at me? Did it yell at me? Is there any warnings down here? No, geez. Problems? No problems. Boy, that is a problem. Okay. I think I need to turn my linter settings up a little bit so it'll yell at me when I do that. Cool. Regardless, let's see if it'll work now. Hey, yeah. More sushi. More sushi. And now if we wrap around, we should see those eaten plates come back around on our little conveyor belt. Let's see. Hey, there's our empty plates. Awesome. Cool. So I think that is that part. Pretty much the same as the one we just did. So let's take a look at the next part. When a sushi is eaten, which we have a convenient method for there, function, customers should be automatically charged. Great. Based on a budget decided by me, the power, the amount of money should go down, and we're going to display that money. So let's start off with, I'm going to make a cost for it. And I'll make it $100. And so now I'm going to put that in the state. I'll set use state, and I'll set that to our start menu. Cool. And now we got a state. Cool. So we need to display that money, and that's going to be in, is that going to be our sushi container? I don't know. It's going to be our table. Yeah, it's got to be on our table. Cool. So we need to pass the money down. I'm going to pass that here and just loop it in here. And if we look now, it should say undefined probably, or nothing. Great. Cool. So now we just need to pass that money down from our app or from table. So we're going to get that money. We're going to pass that money into table. So I should say 100 now. Great. And now all we need to do is reduce that money. And we already have our eat sushi in here. So I'm going to set money to money minus, we don't know which sushi it is. So we know what the ID is, but we don't know which piece of sushi it is. So there's a few ways we can comment this. We could refactor this so that we're passing the entire sushi up instead of just the ID. I think that's what I usually do. But we could also, since we have the ID, we can just find it. So let's play with another array method, sushi. And so if we want to get one item from that array, we use find. And so find will return the, oh, look at that. Find will return the first item in that array that matches whatever condition we give it. So we want find the sushi, where the sushi ID equals, triple equals, the ID we passed in. So that will get us this piece of sushi object. And we can just say cost, is that it? And this would be minus. So we have our current money state. We're finding the sushi that matches the one that we got here. And we're just grabbing the cost of that, subtracting it from the money, and then that should update automatically. Should be 90. Nan. Okay, what did we do wrong? Let's see. Let's break it down into different pieces. So let's just find the piece of sushi first. Boop. Let's see what that gives us. I need to assign a value, but that's not true. Cool. Nan. So we're getting the aha, it's price, not cost. So it's trying to subtract undefined from 100, which will absolutely give us not a number. There we go. 25, 65. Hey, there's some negative numbers. Gotta wash some dishes now. Cool. So we're just using our existing eat sushi method to do that. And yeah, that's cool.
From a computational standpoint, this is
Yeah.
least efficient, right? Because you're iterating through the array all over again.
Kind of, yeah. Yes, this is not the best way to do it. I think if I was worried about efficiency, rule 3, I would pass the, so I in table here, when I call there, when in sushi,
Yeah, pass back up sushi.
I would pass sushi back up like that.
Mhm.
And then in app, we would have our, we call it sush here. And then since I just grab, that's gonna be sush ID. And I can just grab sush price here. And that's computationally a little bit faster, and may or may not look better depending on what you like. Does it work? Yes. Yeah, that's fine. In general, I don't worry too much about efficiency in places like this because it's something that's going to happen once when I click a button, and you know, we're already using JavaScript, so that's there's probably 1,000 things happening on this page that are taking up more computational time. But yeah, if this was something that like happened 100 times a second, definitely I want to tighten that up for sure.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for pointing that out. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions about that part? Cool. No free meals. Deadbeats. So this is going to we can't eat any sushi that exceeds the amount that we have left. This seems pretty straightforward. All we need to do is, since we have our sushi, great. We can say if our sushi price is less than or equal to the money we have left, and do that thing. So this should prevent us, unless I did it backwards, I think that's right. This should prevent us from, so it'll still click, and actually we don't want it to be eaten either, so we're gonna throw that in there. So if we have enough money to do it, then we do the rest of the eating stuff. Let's see if that works. Eat all these. Eat the $25 one. Okay, can I get 10 for 5? I can't. No, I can't. Cool. So I think that works. Half an hour. Blam. Speed run. Cool. This is probably about the complexity of the code challenge, plus that post. Let me have some questions. what kind of stuff is not making 100% sense here? Everyone feeling pretty good? Let's take a look at some of those stretch goals. What's going to happen? Sushi Wallet had a form to add more money. Full rotation. Hey, we did that part. Anything else? Real vague. Cool. Let's throw a form in there just for fun. I don't think I've ever actually bothered with that part. So I think I'm going to let's put it down here. Yeah, we'll throw a form down there. So let's make a separate component for it. Why not? Call it, what do they call it? Sushi Wallet. Sushi Wallet. Why not? So let's make this a new component. And we're going to export. Great. And let's just return. And make sure that's imported. Cool, getting that. So now we should have a garbage H1 down there or up there. That's fine. I'd like it to be below, but I guess not. CSS. So let's make this a form now. So in our form, in our thing here, let's make this just a form. And let's add a text field, add money, number, why not? And yeah, just keep that for now. And we'll, how much? And go, we'll add a submit button. Add. Cool. And so that should throw an ugly little form up here. Great, that's fine. Is there styles on here that we should use? I don't think so. That's fine. Cool. So what do we need for this form here in our Sushi Wallet? Let's control it because that's how we are. So we're going to use a state. Call it more money. And we will set it to 0. And we need to set the value of this to more money. Cool. And when this changes, we want the state to change. So we'll set an on change. And that will just be a little function that takes the value of this here. So we're going to set more money to the target value. And since it's a number, I think it's going to stay a number. We shouldn't have to do any parsing. Let's see if that's true or not, though. Cool. Let's put 1,000. And if we look at our components, there's a Sushi Wallet. It's the string 1,000. Cool. So let's go ahead and set more money to parsing. We could do parse float, but it's fine. Cool. And so that should change to the number 500 without the strings around it. Great. Cool. So now we just need to submit. So that's going to be on the form. We say on submit. And we're going to say that is going to add the money. So we need a function up here called add money. Let's destructure that. And we're going to need to say how much money. So I'm going to make this a function here. Function and bit. And put that there. And what we want to do is we actually want to do two things, right? We want to call add money with the amount of money. And we want to reset that amount. So I'm just going to set more money to 0, which will also set the form to 0. Boom. And since this is a mit, we need to prevent that default. I always forget that until the last minute after 25 years. Cool. So that should call something passed to it. It shouldn't care what happens after that, but we do. So let's pass a function called add money to our sushi wallet. And we'll just call it the same thing. So let's make our, close it up. Money amount. And this is easy. We're just gonna set money to amount. And that should, so it's gonna take the stuff from the form, call set money with the money plus the new stuff, and it'll have the new money and it'll re-render and everything will be cool. So if we eat all our sushi here, bam, 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 nothing left. Let's add $200. Great, now we have 205 money and we can continue eating. Great. And we zeroed out the form, reset it. Cool, nice little state action there. Pretty straightforward. That's about as easy as a form is going to get. Cool, ta-da, we did it. All of us together. What questions do you have for me about any of this? Feeling okay? Cool. That's one of the fastest run-throughs I've done of this lab, I think. Cool. Let me just recap one more time so we can take it bit by bit. So our deliverables, we are grabbing the data from the server and displaying it in the app. So since we are doing something on startup, we want to do a use effect, and we're going to give that use effect an empty array so it only does it once. That use effect is going to run this function, which calls a fetch to our API, which we got here. And it's going to grab the JSON out of that, and it's going to pass that JSON to the set sushi function, which we have here. So we're using state to hold our sushi together. Once we set that, it'll re-render and show us what we got. So we are passing that sushi into our sushi container. And since we are in the future now, we know that we are only going to show 4 at a time. And we need to make which 4 we show dynamic. So instead of just passing in sushi, which will set all of them up, we are going to use the slice array method. And we're going to show the first 4 by slicing from 0 to 4. And we are keeping where we're starting in our state here. So we're starting at 0. And we have a constant that says how many we want to display. If we set it to 5, it would show 5 at a time. And we could scroll through that 5 at a time. But it's 4. So we are keeping that state here. We are slicing off the 4 starting at that index, and that's getting passed into our sushi container. Our sushi container takes the sushi, destructures it here. We're going to map over that array of objects and transform it into a list of sushi elements. And we're going to pass that key in. We're going to pass the sushi object itself. And we're going to pass in this eat sushi that we'll talk about in just a second. The sushi display is taking the sushi and it is just pulling it apart and displaying all the bits and pieces in the appropriate places. Here is where we're checking to see if it's been eaten and displaying it only if it hasn't been eaten. So the other bits and pieces we have hooked up are the button. So this is our function next sushis. And all that's going to do is increment our start index here by however big the display is. And we're just making sure that it's going to be under 100 using that. So that's how that slice works. That eat sushi function is getting passed down into the sushi container. That sushi container is passing that function down into each sushi element. That sushi element is taking that function, and when you click it, it's going to call another function that uses that function and passes in the whole sushi object, which is really no more overhead than passing in the ID. They're both just numbers when it comes down to it. Cool. So when we click on that, calls eat sushi, which is eat sushi, which is eat sushi, which is here. And that is what's happening when it's going to check to make sure the sushi that we're passing up, we can afford. If we can, we're going to do our little map thing here. So we're going to transform the current array into an array that has one little bit changed. If the ID matches the ID of the sushi that we're asking for, it's going to give us a new object and set eat the true. Otherwise, it's just going to return it. And while we're here, we're also going to take the money that it costs off of our money state, which we've set up here, which we're also displaying on the table. Passing it in there and getting that there. We didn't stack them on the table, did we? Were we supposed to stack them on the table? I don't know. Where's that? Oh, causing it to be removed from the plate and an empty plate to appear on the table. Look at that. We missed a piece. We can easily do that. So looking at it here, basically plates is going to be an array that we're passing in a table, and it's doing some fancy CSS stuff to make that stack appear. So the only thing we're worried about here is making sure the plates array that's passed in is the same size as the number of plates we want to display. So we need to pass in plates to the table. And I think since we are keeping track of which ones are eaten, we can just filter on that again. So if we just pass in sushi, it'll show us 100 plates. There they all are. It's too many plates. So we're going to filter again. And it's going to be the filter that is the kind of like the opposite of the, well, I guess, yeah, we're only passing in the plates that are eaten. So we're going to filter that array. And we're going to say only show us the eaten ones. So for each, if the piece is eaten, it's going to be in the array. Otherwise, it's not. So we're passing in an array that's, we don't actually care what's in it. It just happens to be these sushis, but all we care about is that is the right size. So it's going to pass in an array the size of the number of eaten sushis here. So as we click each one, there we go. And for some reason, the plate is on the belt and the table at the same time. Not going to worry about the physics of that. Cool. So that's the part we missed there. Yeah, so we did that. When we click, we're setting the eaten thing. And so the display of the sushi is looking for if that's eaten, don't display anything. If it is not eaten, show it on there. And yeah, so we're doing the money thing. We're doing the money thing there. That's adding, we can add money with our form. And it's automatically subtracting money when and it's not automatically, we did it. Subtracting the money when it gets eaten. And that is the bulk of the functionality there. Super fast recap. Questions? All right. I will post this video in the usual places. It is short, 50 minutes, 45. So yeah, feel free to watch this at double speed, half speed. Watch it as many times as you want. Pick through it. If you have any questions at all about any of the stuff in here, anything that is even a little bit fuzzy, feel free to post it in the channel or message me, and we will get you sorted out. And hopefully this will set you up for a good time tomorrow. Oh, let's see. Let me.
What time is the code challenge again tomorrow?
It'll be at 10 Mountain, so an hour after stand up.
Thanks.
Yeah, cool. Last call for questions. Is that an unmute for a question?
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, go for it.
So roughly like what we did for the code challenge, was that kind of a stretch of what we have expecting for tomorrow?
Yeah, for the practice challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's definitely a stretch for what we're expecting tomorrow, especially with the 90-minute time limit.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna be doing a fetch to get stuff. It's gonna be displaying things. There's gonna be a little form. I think you're like hiding and showing the form, and I think the form lets you add things with both putting on the page and with a post. I think that's mostly it. There might be a clicky thing on this stuff. I'll take a look. But yeah, it's probably closer to this amount of stuff, but maybe even not as complicated. So yeah, keep in mind your fetches, your maps and filters, and passing stuff around, and you should be good. Awesome. Cool. Well, let me post this up and have fun in your career workshop building your own brand.